So for ingredients, you need grapeseed oil, some kimchi, and you also need to take some of the kimchi juice too to go with it. And you also need this vegetable pancake mix that you can get at any Asian supermarket. And it usually says on the back the portions you need for the flour and the water. So you also need water too. And so for the kimchi, you also need to chop them up or cut them with scissors into tiny pieces so it's easier to mix later. But for the portions, you honestly just need to eye the proportions. Just have enough flour in there so the mixture is kind of thick instead of watery. So add in enough water for that. But if you want to do it according to portions, if you want to do it for 2 people, then it's about 200 grams of the pancake mix and about 300 milliliters of water. So you mix those up, and then you need to also add in the kimchi next and add in the kimchi juice too in the mixture and start mixing that too until the mixture starts turning a little orange. And make sure the mixture is kind of thick but also kind of watery. And then after heating up a pan with some grapeseed oil on low heat, and the grapeseed oil, it's better to add about enough to cover the whole pan, but the more grapeseed oil you use, the more fried the pancake will taste, so it's up to your own personal preference. Keep it on low heat, and you can keep it on low heat for a while since it's not going to burn that easily. And then once you think it's a little bit solidified, not as liquidy, you can start trying to flip it over like a pancake. And then once the pancake looks a little bit more dark orange, then it's pretty much done and you can eat it whenever you feel like it's done enough. And then this is best eaten when it's nice and hot, so just dig in and eat it just like any other pancake. Now Josh is going to fill up this container.
Alright, thanks for passing it over, Anne Claire. What's up everyone, my name is Josh, and today we'll be making some Buchim and Hobakjeon. This recipe calls for 3 large eggs, 1 can of Spam, 2 zucchinis or 1 large zucchini, and 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. We're going to start by cracking our eggs into a large bowl and beating together until well combined. And I did not show this on screen, but I added some salt and pepper for a little bit of taste. Then we're going to magically summon our zucchini and cutting board to us, and once we cut the top off, we're going to slice our zucchini at about 100 miles per hour, or kilometers, depending on whether you believe in the metric system and your own superhuman capabilities. Alright, and then next we're going to do the same thing to our Spam, slicing relatively thin so that way it coats in the eggs a bit easier. And next up, we're going to start coating our zucchini and our Spam, starting with the zucchini. I did these in batches of 5 first, coating them in all-purpose flour and then dunking them into our beaten eggs. Make sure that they are evenly coated so that way they adhere to the egg. And for the Spam, there's no need for flour. All we need to do is dunk them into our egg mixture because these will adhere a little bit better than the zucchini. Alright, and now to a small skillet, we're going to add a little bit of vegetable oil, enough to evenly coat the bottom of the pan. And we're going to start by frying up our zucchini. You're going to fry this for 2 minutes at medium to high temperature because they do burn easily, flipping halfway through and then frying for another 1.5 minutes. Once it reaches a nice yellow to golden color that you're satisfied with, go ahead and take a paper plate with a paper towel on top and transfer the cooked zucchini on top and let it cool for about 5 minutes. Then we're going to rinse and repeat with our Spam, cooking for 2 minutes at medium to high heat and then flipping halfway through. Since these don't burn as easily as the zucchini, you can be a little bit more lenient when cooking them. Again, just watch until it reaches that nice yellow to golden color and then transfer onto a paper plate with a paper towel on top. Alright, and we are done. All it needs is a side of rice. Now this was my first time ever making this, but I had a lot of fun. It's super simple and it turned out really delicious. Almost enough to enter a clean plate club. And with that, I will now pass it over to Grace.
Alright, thank you, Josh. Let's go ahead and get started on the next part of our box lunch. My name is Grace Han and I'll be making Keramari, rolled egg. So first of all, I am using 6 eggs for my recipe. You can add in a bit of salt and then a little bit of pepper as well if you would like. And then you're going to really mix those up. So you want to whip it up so eggs are going to be nice and fluffy and light. Some other common ingredients to add are carrots, maybe even some bacon if you want. Traditionally, you would add some seaweed, and I'm adding some green onion here. Just a little note, if you're adding in green onion, make sure to cut off the ends and the other more wilty parts of the green onion because you want it to be nice and fresh, and you want to cut it nice and thin and small so it goes well into the batter. And now once you've added all the ingredients that you've wanted to add, you're going to go ahead and go over to the pan. So turn up that heat, let it heat for a bit, make sure it's nice and warm. So after you put on that oil, cooking oil, make sure that's on there so the egg doesn't stick to the pan. And what you really want to do when you place the egg on is to wait for it to have little bubbles, if you know what I mean. If you see a little bit bubbles coming on and the egg doesn't look as liquidy, that's when you know it's time to start to roll. So for rolling, I use 2 spatulas because it can be a little bit hard and difficult. I would say this is definitely the hardest part of this recipe, is trying to roll the egg perfectly. So the idea that you want is a nice even roll across the whole egg. And I use 2 spatulas just because I find it easier to make sure that it doesn't break while you're trying to roll it. So you can roll it, and if you think the egg still needs to cook a little bit, you can wait, and then you keep on rolling it until it's all the way rolled, and then you are essentially done. All to do left is to set it out to cool, because what we're going to do is cut it. And when you cut it, if you want it to be a little bit more pretty, a little bit more aesthetic, you can cut it diagonally. So get your little lunchbox ready to go, put in your rice, and then you can start to add the cut up rolled egg, the keramari. And this is pretty simple, pretty easy and fast to make, so lots of moms will make it for their kids for lunch because it's 1, good, 2, relatively healthy, you know, nothing especially crazy in there. They're very filling as well. Alright, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be handing this off to Sasha.
Hi everyone, my name is Sasha and I am KSA's Home Cafe Coordinator, and I will be walking through how to make Chumokbap, or Korean style rice balls. So for this recipe, you're going to need about a cup of rice, a tablespoon or so of corn, furikake, and sesame oil. To start off, you're going to be adding 1/2 teaspoon of sesame oil to your rice. If you don't like that much sesame oil because it can be really strong, you can do 1/4 teaspoon, or you could completely omit it in this recipe. It's up to you. Next, you're going to be adding your furikake and your corn, and then you're going to be mixing that up really well until everything is incorporated. Now, when we make the shape of the rice ball, you could use your hands, but I do recommend wearing gloves for it, just because the rice is kind of hot, so you want to make sure that you protect your hands from getting burned. But what I like to do, just so that I don't have to buy gloves just in case the store is out, I get some saran wrap and then I put on the counter and use the rice paddle to lay down a little bit of rice, and then I form it into a ball using the corners of the saran wrap. And I pretty much, that's how I do it. So this recipe is actually really nice too if you want to take it out for picnics, or you need an idea for lunch. You just want to use up your ingredients because you have some rice hanging around in your house. But it's probably a really easy recipe and one of my favorite go-tos to do at the moment. And that's it. So in this part, you can just see me enjoying the fruits of my labor, even though it's not a very hard recipe to deal with. Super simple and really delicious. I don't think you can go wrong with rice and whatever else you want to add to it. Anyway, that concludes our portion of APSA Night Market. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching, and yeah, hope you guys are staying happy, healthy, and very, very safe. Bye.